Hello, this is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited today. Today, I have one of my friends, Melissa Renee, and I'm going to call her Renee. But I have this beautiful, badass woman here with me. Why do I say she's a badass? Well, because she is still serving our country. And she has experienced stuff that some of us probably have only read about or watched. So I am so excited to dive into learning more and sharing all of your goodness, Renee. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And they're going to go badass, right? Like, what?
Yes.
Yeah, and they're getting, as we've gotten to know each other, Renee is 20 years into serving our country. And that really is a lot of experiences, I'm sure. I know that you've been exposed to a lot of, trauma, obviously, and PTSD, and finding a way through love. And when I look at you, I think of love. It would be hard to imagine looking and feeling your energy that you've experienced anything other than that. And so I can't wait to dig more into that. And that's probably why you wrote about love in your book. So I want to hear more about, how am I looking at this really beautiful, put together, badass woman today? And how did she create herself? I'm interested. So curious.
Wow. We are accumulation of all of our life experiences. And as you were reading my bio and calling me a badass, I just had imagery of, me being in Afghanistan and me being in Iraq and carrying all that weight on my shoulders. And it really defined who I was. A lot of perseverance, self-determination came through of what I've done. And it's just been a long journey. I've never thought I would join the military, but I joined the military to serve my country and to pay off my college loans. I went to Penn State and I got my bachelor's degree in accounting. And it's been quite a journey. And now I'm at the end of this career. I've been spending so much time giving to soldiers and giving to my country and giving to my marriage at the time. And now I'm like, wow, now it's time to really start investing in myself and find out who I am as an individual and as a woman and no longer as a soldier. So it's been quite a process.
I sit here and I look at you and I'm just trying to get a visual even of you right in Afghanistan and carrying, you're so petite. How in the, I can't, how can I say this? I see like the physical requirements as well as the emotional requirements that are required to be under such intense environments. How did you do that? When you were in the thick of all of that, how did you pull that perseverance out of you?
Well, when I was in Iraq, I was deployed for 15 months. And every soldier that's deployed in combat has one mission, and that's to get home and get home safe. And back then I was deployed in Iraq in 2007, 2009. So we didn't have as much technology as we have now, but there were times there where you didn't have signal depending on the threat level, and you had your soldier, your brothers and sisters in arms to support each other. And you had to keep your mental health in check. You had to take care of your body. And there's times where I had to put all my gear up and I had to lean against the wall and squat down and then shimmy my way back up because it was so much weight on my body. But, it's that I have to get home safe. I have to take care of myself. I'm here to do a mission. And when I was in Iraq, I had great spiritual awakenings. I started learning about all the books Paulo Coelho wrote about the pilgrimage. And I really learned to every time I would walk to work at nighttime, I would look up at the stars because the light illumination's so low there. So the stars were so bright. And I really learned to really take in the beauty of what was there, be appreciative for what I had and the food and my health and all that. And it is a mindset. But at the end of the day, it's about how do I get home safe, whole health and wellness. And I did do yoga when I was in Iraq as well.
Oh, I love that. You're just reconnecting with something bigger than yourself. I I've never actually heard that about Iraq, with that the stars are even brighter, and using that as almost like a true north to keep you focused. Like we say
Yeah.
in so much in the strategic world, true north, and to actually have implemented that in your own life, and some other modalities with bringing in reading. That's I love that. So, what would you say to anybody now? I'm sure there's going to be some woman listening to this who's still serving. Right? What would you say to them right now?
That their mental health is really important, to take time for themselves, really nourish their mind and body, keep those energies balanced. I didn't put a lot of time in my feminine energy and all that. And I got very out of balance. I mean, yes, I had great moments in Iraq and all that, but I was pouring into everybody else and not myself, if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But the importance of really tapping into that feminine energy, working on themselves. Yeah.
Wow. So, if I'm listening, I'm thinking, well, how do I know, what does being out of balance look like when you're trying to balance your feminine and your masculine energy? What does that look like, or what did it look like for you?
Well, perfect example is, as we were talking about, I was married for 19 years. And when I was like in Washington, I was stationed in Washington State for like 4 years. And I had a lot of soldiers, and I had about 10 soldiers. I was the boss. So when I would go to work, there's no time for when you're the boss in the military, there's no time for tears and your own struggles. And at that time, I was trying to get pregnant. I was trying to get IUIs done. And when I found out I wasn't getting pregnant, I mean, I would go in the bathroom, cry, because it's emotionally, very emotionally hard to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to wipe my tears and then go back in the office and be the boss and just compartmentalize my emotions. And then I would go home and see the home in disarray, see that things weren't being taken care of, and having to put the mother hat on again. And I was always a lifelong learner. So I would do college work and stuff like that. There was no time to go and go get massages, go get nice clothes. There was no windows, because I was a caretaker for everybody and that provider and that nurturer. So and because I do IT, I do computers for the military, like servers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a profession that was very logical, very mathematics, very masculine. So there was not a lot of fluid and feminine and creative flow going on. It was really out of balance. And I looked unhealthy.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine as you go through that, how you start depleting yourself in so many ways. I know right before we hit record, we were kind of laughing around because I had a massage today. And I need to come home and dry my hair and get it all, put myself together as a girl, a woman, really. And I was just talking about like how beautiful you look, right? You just look like there's radiation, this radiant beauty that comes from you, this glow about you, and it's really that glow about somebody who really has grown into themselves and they're flourishing in their own light. And I'm sure you had mentioned too that your people can see it. People can see when you're depleted and when you're not giving back to yourself. So how did you start that journey? to take care of yourself, that you mattered?
Well, it had to take a crumbling of a divorce of marriage. I ended my marriage of 19 years. There was a lot of things that I was very blinded from. And the truth was so earth shattering. And I was very alone here in this home during the holidays. It was Christmas and New Year's, and it was probably the loneliest time in my life because I didn't have any friends here. I had one friend. And I got very, very angry, and I did a lot of work. This is my prayer room. That's why I did the recording here in my prayer room. I did all my work with, but it got to the point where I started thinking about, I was existing my marriage only like compartmentalized. I was only operating from up here. And I started to think about, I was very emotionally malnourished in my marriage, very emotionally malnourished. And I started using words like yummy and thriving. And I was like, I want to have a yummy life. I don't even know what a yummy life is, but that's what I want. I want to thrive. I want a yummy life in all facets. I want rich intimacy in all facets. And I started realizing how I was depleted. And I started going to therapy, and we started doing like a lot of deep somatic work. And it was the therapist asked me the one day to recall how it felt to my body having a conversation with my ex-husband. And I felt very constricted and very tight here. And then she said, well, I want you to think about listening to Enrique Iglesias, because I told her I love listening to him. I was dancing all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me think about that. And it was like, I could feel it from my head down to my toes. It was like a melted butter feeling. And I was like, wow, where and when have I felt like that? Where are those melted butter feelings? That's how I want to feel, not just in a romantic life, but in all aspects of my life, rich and yumminess and melted butter. I was like, wow, I need to work on myself so I can attract a partner in a relationship and a way of living, so I'm not repeating patterns. It was very, very important to me not to repeat any of the patterns of my past. So I started working on myself.
Oh. Now, who wouldn't want to have a life that you feel like melted butter?
I know.
I'm raising my hand, right? Like, what would that feel like? Oh my gosh. I mean, the possibilities, it's just like your mind goes, poof. Like,
yeah,
what?
Mind blown.
Yeah, what could that feel like to feel like that? How that song comes on. Wow, that was a great exercise.
I felt that all the way down to my toes. I was like, wow, I like that. And I want to experience more life like that.
Yeah, I want some more melted butter. I just thought of that silly 80s song, Def Leppard, Pour Sugar on Me. Instead of it's like pour melted butter all over me.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my goodness. So you started realizing, as this idea, this vision of this melted butter, this yummy. So you started to go through some talk therapy, which I highly, I think we've all done talk therapy too, as we go down this path of rediscovering who we are. And then how did it then expand into, those discoveries of taking a look at your patterns and what was a big pattern that you found?
I found out that I was an enabler. I defended my ex-husband and all his actions. Without going into details on them, I just I defended him, and I was an enabler, and I was a nurturer to a fault. Because I thought I figured if I could help him get happy as a person, then he would show up better as a partner. And I kept saying, maybe now he'll get better. And then I realized I started reading a lot about David Dita's books, and he writes a lot, very soulful, energetic level. He wrote a book, Finding God Through Sex, and some other books. And he talks a lot about how as women, when we have feminine sexual energy, we tend to shut down when we get upset. We go inward and we get closed down. And he was very vocal about, if you're going to talk, always keep your heart open as a woman. Keep your heart open even when you're upset and angry. And I didn't do that. I always shut down. So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure in my next phase of my life to keep my heart always open and show my vulnerability and really present myself differently. And it was very eye-opening for me, and get better at voicing myself. So because I struggled in the past verbalizing my truths or finding out what my truths were, I dove very deep into art therapy. And art therapy was really, I got to see what I was feeling at a very deep, deep level. And once I got the art behind it, and I was like, okay, what is the words behind it? And I was able to it's like a translator from art to language for me. And it really helped metabolize how my needs were not being met as a woman. They weren't being met.
Yeah. So that's fascinating. This just the concept. I've never actually heard that. Even when you're upset, instead of shutting down, because I think that's what we do. Isn't that how we've kept ourselves safe through, a male-dominated world, and then you're in a male-dominated career, and you're putting so much out there, to even when you're upset, to keep your heart open.
Yeah, and it's my it was my default in my previous marriage to shut down and just go silent for a couple of days. And it was a protective space. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, okay, how can I move in next time and keep myself open? And the author doesn't say don't get angry. It's like, get angry, but come from a place of love, keeping your heart open. So, you hurt my feelings, when you said this, instead of allowing it to get to anger, and I just seen a lot of my patterns. Like, no, I will never attract the same kind of relationship again. So I'm going to figure out what I need to do to work on myself and really dive deep and do some serious soul work while I've been here these past 8-9 months.
Yeah. Wow. That's really brave of you, Renee. I really want to, give kudos out. It's courageous. It takes a lot of bravery to make that commitment to yourself, to go figure out what that is, what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like. Identifying it is, and what is that piece that's continually bringing that pattern out in you, and to go do the deep dive into the work. So, am I surprised that you decided to do that? The badass who's carrying probably a pack bigger than you.
Yeah.
It shows the resilience that you have in you, the emotional resilience to have this, melted butter, this yummy. I want some yummy. I want, so how did you, I'm going to, that's going to be the name of the podcast. It's going to be something with melted butter. Finding your yummy melted butter. But
yes.
So how then, as you go through this process, what are some of the things that you've learned along the way, that if somebody is feeling that they're recognizing themselves in your story, they're hearing how when you were upset, how you would shut down, or how you were out of balance with your feminine and masculine, and to where you can get to become this radiated. You are radiating. Mm-hmm. People will see it in the YouTube, but you really are radiating this this part of yourself that is really shining through.
It's been quite a journey, and I think it really was about just getting in my body. I started doing a lot of dancing. I danced for prayer, but then I also started doing a lot of belly dancing, because belly dancing is very sensual. You're really looking to seeing yourself move, or going in the garage and just dancing to Enrique Iglesias. Mm-hmm. That was my boy during this. But it really drops you, because in the military, I was very up here in my head. But when you're dancing, you're in your body, and there's different archetypes that come out when you dance. And in here, I was more of the spiritual, soulful woman here. But then out when I was in the garage dancing Reiki Glaciers, that was more of that, like that lover, that seductress, that sexy woman. And I think just really feeling in my body and seeing how my body wanted to move, instead of being everything was so linear and logical in my life. And I think that's where I started making changes. And then I started going shopping. I went we have an outlets here, and I didn't even know, like, I would try on a top and I would ask the women, well, what bra do I wear under that? What do I wear under that? Because I was in the Army for so long and I just didn't know. They're like, okay, honey, you have to go down to Victoria's Secrets and get this, So I had to like learn, and I still to this day will send my sister, who's like 13 years younger than me, hey, do these shoes match? What do I wear with this? How do I accessorize that? Because I wasn't taking care of myself. And when I went to Black House White Market the one day, I was there in my Army fatigues. And I remember I was in the dressing room and I tried on this really beautiful lavender, like the color top you have on right now. And I allowed it to drape over my body. And I just sat there and how I felt of the fabric against my skin. And I can feel just different. The fabric, the texture, it was soft, it was delicate, it was feminine. It made me feel different than having fatigues on that were meant for combat. I was like, wow, I really like dressing up. I need to do this more often. I need to learn more about makeup. I had to get a makeup class done and learn how to put on makeup, because in the military, it's very conservative. I had to learn about being a woman all over again because I was so in a place of just giving to everybody else and not myself. So
Love that. But there's some really practical stuff there, right? Like, we get busy, whether you're in the military and you're masculine, or you're raised in a family, or you're in a corporate career working too many hours. We have a tendency to do that as women. We have a tendency to stop, or maybe, like, I could probably use a new makeup class. I've been doing my makeup the same way for too long, right? Like, but to be able to take that time for yourself, where it's not seen as like this being selfish, right? It's actually seen as it actually fills you up and brings out those qualities that actually help make the world a better place.
Yeah, because when I did this work on myself, I realized I was interacting with people differently at work, neighbors. I was a happier person. I wasn't as short with people because I was pouring into myself. So when we pour into ourselves, like you said, we start radiating, we start getting happier, we start getting nicer to people. It's like little micro shifts that are happening.
Oh yeah, the progress versus thinking it's one big shift, right? You're going to go in, get everything done. But it's taking those step by step by step steps to really find out what we're actually wanting. I love that you have a sister who can help you figure out how to accessorize.
Me too.
So tell me, I know you've written a book.
Yes.
And it is called Facets of Love. Did I get it right?
Yeah. It's Facets of Love. And then it's a guide for every lost woman desperate for a life of full authentic embodiment.
Oh, tell me more.
I named it Facets because Facets is a really big Army word. They want soldiers to be multi-dimensional, multifaceted, into a bunch of different things. And the facets is a facet of each way of that. Let me try to clear it, what I want to say. There's different ways of healing that I did. So each chapter is a facet of how I healed myself. So there's a chapter for the love of God, and there's a chapter for the love of dance. There's one for the love of art, for the love of self, and for the love of thriving. So each chapter is a facet of how I healed myself. And I needed all of that. And I was lost. I didn't even realize how desperate I was for this life until things got so bad and I was alone. I thought I was living a full life. I thought in the moments it was a full, authentic, embodied life, but I didn't realize that until divorce happened. So I went through this process, and I studied so much about Reiki and energy medicine. And I said, I think we talked about this, if I'm going to be a practitioner and help people, and if I can't walk the talk and apply what I've learned, then I'm just, well, what am I? I can't, I can't do that. I need to take all my tools and apply it. So I prayed and I meditated. I screamed on the other side of the veil to his deceased relatives. I almost lost my throat with vulgar, with serious profanity. And I know they all heard me. And I danced. I found music that was medicinal, music that I needed to hear. And sometimes I was joyful. And then other times I was crying because of how much those words affected me. I said, okay, I need to move through this. I need to metabolize this. I need to breathe through this. And then my art, I have art everywhere in this room. And then, getting into that thriving. What does it mean to thrive? Words like yummy. Life should be yummy. It should be tasty. It should excite all your senses. I started researching about intimacy, and I was like, wow, I only had maybe a tiny aspect of there's like 4 different types of intimacy, and I only had one of them with my ex-husband. I want all of it. Why can't we have our cake and eat it too?
Right. I've never actually heard that. The 4 types of intimacy.
Yeah. So there is your leisure, you going out, hiking and all that. Mm-hmm. Sexual intimacy, emotional, where you're able to vulnerably express how you feel in a safe space. And then intellectual, where I guess, if you want to talk about politics, you feel like you're going to be really respected. Mm-hmm. And I think all I had with my ex-husband was leisure. So I was like, I want all that. I want the yumminess. And I was like, and I deserve it. I deserve it. And we all deserve it.
Yes, we do. That's really interesting about when you just pause and take a look at your life and just think about those 4 types of intimacy and even rate them, right? Like, I'm logical brain too, over logical at times, but I'm seeing like this pie chart, right? Where I do, and then fill it in. Like, where am I between 1 and 10 on each of these? And how does that apply to my life? Like, that is a really, that's just a really beautiful gift to be able to understand that about yourself, and because you really can't change anything if you can't really identify what's missing.
Right.
Yeah. And I love how you used music. So we know who really gets you feeling like melted butter, but was there? So how did you identify the music that would bring up these feelings? Did you go searching for it, or it would just trigger on the radio or on Pandora or something? How did you find
that? Good question. A couple of years ago, I took a 1-year intensive program called the Shamanic Academy, and the lady that ran it created a Spotify playlist. It's actually called the Shamanic Academy playlist. And there was that's where I heard of Fia. She's a Stockholm artist. And it just called to me, and I YouTube more of it. And I try to allow my heart to go where I feel like I'm being pulled, instead of, I need to listen to this music. And it was that playlist where I found her music. And she's only in her 20s, but she's so ahead of her time, how she writes all of her music. So once I realized what really spoke to me, and also a lot of Native American music naturally calls to me as well, I would just play like 3 or 4 songs, and then I was done. And then I would sit on the floor here, and then I would go into meditation. It's like I danced all the emotions and I got all moving, and then I dropped into stillness. and meditated and said my prayers. And then I went to bed. I did that almost every night for like, I don't know, 3-4 months, singing too, because it's that vibration, that sound. It's just it's so powerful.
Yeah, I've heard the correlation too between singing and those who are opening up their throat chakra with when we don't feel safe, right? You don't feel safe, the vulnerability with the intimacy types that you talked about, where there is, that singing actually really can help open up that throat chakra. So it's so interesting that you brought that up. That vibration, the singing, is so powerful to our body and connecting our brains with our bodies.
I really needed to open up my throat chakra, feel into my heart, and I really had to work on my throat chakra. And then the cover of my book back here is the silhouette on there, and on the throat, there's a box, and it says fragile on it, and it says be careful unpacking it. Right at the throat chakra, there's all these jagged lines going around the throat. And I knew I'd be very careful how I unpack that. I didn't know that wasn't a conscious thought. I just started sketching this box over the throat. And I knew I had to really work on expressing, it's not the wants, it's the desires. And really knowing there's a difference. What do I need? I've done things in my life that I need, but what I really desire, and know that that's my right, here in this lifetime. So,
yeah, somebody's going to go, what? I have desires? What did you know your desires though? When you started out, you just knew you wanted this melted butter, but you didn't actually connect the two, right? It wasn't this linear progress too that we've talked about to get to even identifying what are your desires.
And I never had this language when I was married. And maybe because I was so shut down because of being this nurturer, this caretaker, this provider for everybody, I never had that language. And my ex-husband asked me, what do you want? What do you like in bed and all that? I couldn't say anything because I wasn't getting my needs met as a partner, as a friend, as a confidant. So because I wasn't getting met like that, there was no vulnerability and raw vulnerability in the bedroom. I just shut down. I was like, I don't know what I want. But I think I was too afraid. I was too scared to say, well, you're not meeting me in this aspect of my life. So I didn't know. I didn't know until I got out. Now I'm 45 and I'm like, life's too short. I need to work on this and work on the word desire and yummy and abundance and all that. And one of the other things that is worth mentioning, I was very, very, very angry. I was very angry. And it's very easy for people to stay in the anger mode and stay in victim mode and want to blame, you ruined my life. I gave you 20 years of my life. It's so easy to say that. I gave you 20 years of my life and I didn't have any children or anything. But I had to do a lot of work on that too. And my friend told me the one day, she's like, you're going to have to work on forgiving your ex-husband. And I was like, well, I'm feeling pretty bitter right now and pretty spiteful. And I just want to punch him in the throat. And that was me speaking my truth. Yeah. And she's like, that's okay. Someday you'll get there. And every day I sat in here, I started telling God, I forgive my ex-husband. I forgive him. And I kept saying that till one day I was like, and I went home to my family and they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, my ex-husband, I was like, he was my greatest teacher. And they're all like, what are you talking about? And I was like, look everything that I learned. Look where I'm at now. I wouldn't have been a Reiki Master. I wouldn't have been an energy healer. I want to learn about herbs and health and wellness. Look at everything that I learned and look where it got me right here. I wouldn't change anything. The marriage ended with adultery. I want to change. If I had to do it all over again, I would do the same thing because it got me here into a language of using abundance, thriving, and yumminess. And that is hard to come to that place. That's growth when a woman or a man can say, I forgive you. And because when you hold on to stuff, the grip is so tight. And the grip is so tight, you can't allow anything to come in. So you have to relax that grip, give it back to the universe, give it back to God. He will transform that like compost back into the universe, and you create space to bring something in more beautiful. So I had to release it.
Oh, that is beautiful. I think that's a really important thing for people to hear, is that the ability to forgive so that you can receive, that we can
Yes.
actually block our own receiving what we want. And to look at, 19 years, I had a 20-year, 21-year, whatever it was, and I get confused. But when you're able to pause and be grateful for the experiences, because it exponentially skyrocketed you out into the discovery of who you are meant to be, and the lessons that you learn. That really is such an important thing, I think, for all women to learn, or men, if there's a man who's been in the relationship and he's feeling that too, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to feel bitter. It's okay to be upset. It's actually, I think, healthy to feel those feelings instead of burying them into our body and creating disease into our bodies. So I love that you've been able to flip that around into this big gratitude, your biggest teacher, and the space that it brings in for all of this stuff to come into your life. It's so exciting when women really are empowered into themselves, into allowing the forgiveness, seen as the lesson. Bravo, Renee. Bravo.
Thank you.
What other wisdom tips would you give somebody who's in that process? Maybe they're part of this, they're still bitter, maybe, or they haven't reached the point of the forgiveness. What did forgiveness feel like once you started to forgive? What did you notice about yourself?
It loosened up resistance in my body. I think I felt lighter, more fluid when I came from that place of forgiveness. Because I mean, I've done a lot of reading. I've done a lot of soul reading books, stuff like that over my, I don't know, past 10 years. And I knew that was the answer, but it's just hard. It's easy to be mad. It's the easier route. And I really wanted to elevate myself. I really wanted to elevate my consciousness. I really wanted to create I didn't want to repeat a pattern. I was so desperate not to repeat and bring in the same thing. Because if you don't learn the lesson, the same pattern is going to come back. I was like, no, I've seen enough with that marriage. That was enough. I'm done. And in the beginning, I would wake up every morning and I would just say, thank you, God, for my breath. Thank you for the bones of this house and the foundation, and for everybody who's walked on this land. My friend told me that's a strong medium. She said, love your land, love your home, because your home loves you and it's smiling at you. So I spent time just in deep, deep gratitude, loving this land, having a fire out back, and just really honoring everybody who has been in this home and on this land before me. And the gratitude, I mean, you hear it everywhere about giving gratitude, but when you can feel it in your body, you can feel the gratitude in your heart, it really helps. This part of my life wasn't the greatest, but it just allows those shifts to happen. And you don't have to say thank you to the person. You don't have to say thank you. You don't have to say, you don't got to forgive your ex-husband or whoever face to face. Allow God to do that work and trust in the divine order of things. Mm-hmm. Everything we do here, you can't hide from it. Spirit and God sees it all, and it will get rebalanced. And I guess have faith that there's a higher power that's working in your favor and will take care of that wrongdoing some way.
Yeah, their lesson might. But it's really beautiful about that is that forgiveness, how it showed up in your body, how it allowed you to be able to then step into this receiving. Did you ever use in that the work that you did you ever use that Hawaiian Ho'oponopono, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you?
Yes. Yeah. Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's such a powerful way to forgive people, forgive ourselves, forgive other people, and um, it really is talking about what you're talking about, as well as healing the land that you're on. Being grateful for the land that you're on and everybody who's been there. I actually, in this whole healing process, through healing, the trauma, the getting to the yummy, I haven't actually heard somebody use that tip as far as being thankful for the ground and the earth and everybody who's passed along there before you.
Yeah, because this home was built in the 1800s and it's been added on and added on and added on. It used to take care of the farmland around here. And when you sit outside, I sit outside and had a fire. I just thanked everybody who tended to this ground. And it just really makes you really thankful. Hey, I have heat. I have clean water. I have a strong structure here. I'm safe. The things we take for granted.
Yeah. It's interesting too when you're talking about how you felt in your body. I think being able to even feel those feelings really even validates or confirms that you connected back in, instead of living your life up here, neck
Yeah.
up, to actually being physically in your body.
Yes. It feels good. It's like a new me. And that's why I went by the name, my middle name, Renee. I found out one day in the last winter that Renee the name means to be reborn again. And I was like, that I never looked that meaning up until this year. And I was like, I really like that. So I look at Melissa as that soldier, that masculine, that nurturer, that enabler, and Renee as that softer, feminine, speaking her truth, being more authentic, and melding them both together,
Oh, I love that. Oh, what a way that you had just recently looked that up too,
I know,
right?
weird.
Like, we know, there's no such thing as a coincidence,
Right.
that was some other power coming in, you know, urging you to go look it up at this specific time in life. Oh, I absolutely love that. So if people are interested in reaching out or hearing more about your book, where can they get your book, Renee?
So my book is on Amazon.
Mhm.
It is under Melissa Renee, and it's 99 cents until June. And then it's going to go up in price. And then it's actually going to be turned into a workbook. So people can journal and they can sketch while they're reading my story. So that's on Amazon. It's on pre-order. And then 1 June, it gets downloaded. I actually found out that a lot of people think that you need a Kindle, even people my age and younger. So it's a free app. I had to explain that a lot. And then I can also be found on Instagram, and it's just Renee_carving authenticity.
Carving of this.
Pretty simple.
There I am, like, blah, my words are stuck there. I absolutely love that. I hope people will reach out, because being able to see and walk through the actual process that you've walked through and that you're going to be helping people through as well is super powerful, empowering for those who are stuck, like that visual that you talked about with the art.
Mhm.
I would have never thought to have gone to art therapy to try to take what I'm feeling or just start feeling, and then to bring it into words, to then bring it into, the movement, the dance. I mean, it's so creative, such a creative way to heal. And then bringing in your energy healing work, the Reiki work, that's just a really powerful combination for somebody, and really getting people out of their comfort zone if they're really more linear and, in a masculine world, right?
Yeah.
Did you in that process too, I was going to mention it earlier, but did you take singing lessons by any chance when you were in that process?
Nope. I just
No.
sang on the top of my lungs, and I only have 4 cats here and they can't talk back. So they still love me.
As you're belting out one of those songs.
Yeah, they're like, they still love me. There's no judgment here.
Mhm. Yeah. I have a friend actually who is a voice coach. She does that. She's based out of New York. Her name is Julia. And she's always, just to kind of talk about what you're saying about the singing, because I can't sing at all. I don't have I don't have yeah, the cats would probably run away. Oh my gosh, here she is. But she was actually sharing with me that all of us actually have a voice inside of us. It has to do with finding the range or the tone and the right music, but that we all are capable of singing.
Didn't know that.
Right? And so the interesting thing is, because of the pandemic, now she has students all over, right? All over the US just because of that. So I thought I'd share that. So when Julia hears it, she's gonna go, oh, thanks, Deb. But it's super powerful, of being able to find that voice, or if somebody's afraid to, maybe there is other people in the house and they're the
Yeah.
cat, not just the cats running away. So, oh, this has been such a pleasure to get to know you more, Renee, and what a badass and what you've overcome, and just the light that you're bringing to the world, and really empowering women to step more into their feminine and be their authentic self, unlock that throat chakra, and step into this yummy life. I cannot wait. We'll end up probably having to have a follow-up podcast once this melted butter person comes into your life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, as you start taking applications, right, of who could possibly be this melted butter. But I'm just going to leave us with that thought, because I think it's really important for people to feel into it, getting out of our heads and getting into our heart about what that would feel like. So whatever song it is for them. What was your song for him? Was it um, was there any specific songs that you found that made those emotions come up? I mean, I think just hearing his voice on anything, he could be singing, Grease, and it would probably sound that way. But
Oh, for that melted butter feelings?
yeah.
Um, it was he has on Spotify, one of the albums is called Sex and Love. And I think his a lot of his music is just about passion, it's about love, it's about sex, it's just about intimacy. And I think some of the music it was in Spanish. I was like, I don't know what he's saying, but it feels good.
Yeah.
It's got a great beat to it. And I listened to this music every single day, nonstop for like 7 months. It didn't get old. So there was something about his music that was pulling me in and saying, and getting me to think about how I wanted to be loved and what kind of romantic life I wanted to have. And it was basically him for a while. I don't know. I'm just going with where my heart wants to go.
Yeah. So I think once we're done recording, I'm going to go look that up, the Sex and
Oh
Love
yeah.
album, because that just, like, I want to feel that today. I want to feel that feeling.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Renee, for joining me. And I hope you guys all reach out if you're really looking to find, some balance, find a coach that's going to help you through this process, that you'll think of Renee and her beautiful journey, and go take a look and look up her book. Can't wait for it to come out, especially it's so affordable, for people to be able to, make an investment into themselves, even if it's the first step. So thank you so much.
Thank you.